Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Joker, Folie, Deux. Number 2 would be The Wild Robot. Number 3 would be Beetle Juice, Beetle Juice. Number 4 would be Transformers 1. And number 5 would be White Bird, A Wonder Story. Which was my mistake. I got 4 out of 5 of my predictions right. I was so close, and there was a part of me that knew there's no way White Bird gets into the top 5, even though, you know, low numbers, blah, 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 blah. I should have known. I should have known there was no way it had any momentum to get into the top 5. It got so close. The people who got their predictions right, congratulations. Thank you for guessing the right one on behalf of me and the other people who put too much faith in A Wonder Story, the film that was like delayed for like, what, 2 years? I think I remember seeing trailers for back in 2022 or maybe early 2023, something like that. Yeah, and like, obviously that didn't help. We'll talk about it later. Anyways, let's just dive into it. Let's get to the movie that everyone is probably here to hear me talk about. Joker, Folie, Deux. This is the big release this weekend. It's not White Bird. This is a lot of people's most anticipated film of the year. A lot of people excited to see this thing. And here's the thing. The first movie, the first Joker, was a big hit. Everyone knows it. Outside of like the awards buzz it got, it had an incredible word of mouth, despite, you know, what the media was kind of talking about at the time as far as like, is this going to incite violence in the theaters and stuff like that? Reporting on it almost as if they wanted it to happen, which is really weird. We don't need to talk about that in full here. Despite all that negativity, though, it did go on to gross $1 billion in its overall run. The original opening weekend was $96 million, one of the highest ever for an R-rated movie at the time. I think Deadpool at this point crushed it, but yeah, so it was really riding high. And going into this one, it was like, yeah, the budget is up from where it was, from where the first movie was, because they're pretty confident that this one is going to make a lot of money, even if it's not as much. You know, there will still be a fan base here, and here's the thing. It was still eyeing a little below where the first movie opened, but I think they were maybe hoping for that same kind of momentum that the original got. Problem is, the word of mouth on this one is sour. It's bad. People are frustrated, they're angry, they're dissatisfied. It's one thing to have like a bad Rotten Tomatoes critic and audience score. It happens. It's one thing to also have like some negative IMDb user ratings. It's like, that also happens. Metacritic, same thing. You know, it can happen. You know, it doesn't necessarily, you know, exactly reflect how some people will go approach a movie. You know what I mean? Like if you look at Harold and the Purple Crayon, recent example, despite people dogging on that one, the cinema score was an A-, and that's because the way that one operates is they just go to theaters, they go to showings. I'm not sure the exact specifics of how many they go to, how they decide where to go, but they just ask the people who went to see it. And usually if it's an audience that knows kind of what they're getting into, it'll get like a high mark. You know, it's casual audiences mixed in with film lovers, so you get a good combination. This cinema score for Joker, Folie, Deux is a D. So it's one thing to have a low Rotten Tomatoes score, it's one thing to have a low Metacritic, whatever. A D on cinema score is pretty fucking awful. Madam Web got a C+. And that is a flop also. But this getting a D is like, that is infinitely worse. And the fact that Melanopolis, bigger flop, but the fact that Melanopolis is at a D+, so there's a slim margin of people who preferred that experience than Joker, Folie, Deux. And I think the way people have been reacting to it all over the place kind of reflects the mixed feelings, the frustrations with it. Now, it did open, you know, on paper to some high numbers, 40 million for the domestic US 3-day weekend. Overall, the worldwide opening is 121 million. Okay, solid, you know, starting off point normally, but when you do factor in, not only is the budget higher from where the last film was, it's sitting at 200 million now, and normally by our show's standards, we go by a doubling point, but I think discussing film, or one of the, like, film Twitter accounts that do news stuff, and hopefully they cited their source, they said specifically it needs 450 million to break even. That's the number I have. So the fact that they have this, what could be a solid starting off point, but you're mixing it in with maybe some of the worst word of mouth right out of the gate for a comic book movie, at least, it is not, it's gonna drop. You know, if you're just asking me, someone who's seen a lot of stuff on this show, and of course it's possible that that doesn't happen. Maybe people were like just so bewildered the first time and they're like, okay, maybe I will go see it again. I feel like a lot of people don't do that, though. I feel like a lot of people might be like, maybe I do need to see it again, and then they just don't, especially in a theater. So I don't know, man. I really do not think this is going to continue to hold over. I don't think it's going to get to that break-even point. You know, I'm glad so many people, I assume and hope, you know, everyone, you know, fairly equally got paid an ass load of money out of the gate instead of waiting on, like, back ends and stuff like that, because it's not looking like it's going to reach a $1 billion like that first movie. People wanted to bring this up. The comic book movie openings of late that are kind of like seemed as like these huge flops, just to kind of see where it fits in. So as far as the opening weekends, it's 15 million below The Flash, 6 million below The Marvels, 13 million below the Aquaman Lost Kingdom 3-day opening weekend. It's about on par with its 4-day though, about 40 million. And then it's 25 million over Madam Web, 10 million over Shazam 2, 1 million over Morbius. Only 1 million over Morbius. And that's probably the worst movie in this bunch. Yeah, it is. Morbius, because at least Madam Web is a little, you know, cringy, entertaining, whatever. Morbius is just nothing. So the fact that this movie only made 1 million over Morbius, that's where this movie's at. Yeah, that's pretty fucking horrible. And the fact that like something like The Marvels, you know, had a bit more of like a connection with the audience to get some people in, or like The Flash even. I mean, shit, man. It is not looking good. I mean, it's especially not looking good for DC. I mean, look at either way you look at it, it's still like so many flops in a row for them. You know, I don't even have Blue Beetle here. I should have gotten Blue Beetle. I think it's safe to say it's a higher opening weekend than Blue Beetle, but you know, still, this is still Joker though. It should be doing way better, especially going off of the billions. But you know, they are committed to their, you know, their vision, their creative choices. It's worth a whole like separate review, obviously. But yeah, I mean, this is what was going to happen. You know what I mean? Like it was possible that this was going to happen, and now it is. As far as Todd Phillips movies, because I didn't really want to compare this to other DC movies, it kind of feels unfair. You know, and obviously it still has a long way to go until it gets to the Joker. But as far as Todd Phillips' filmography, it is still one of his top 5 highest opening weekends. It beat out Due Date by 8 million for that top 5 spot. So it's, you know, below the original Joker by 56 million, and it's below the entire Hangover trilogy. 1 million below Hangover 3, 4 million below the OG one, and 45 million below Hangover 2. In case you forgot, Hangover 2 was a huge thing at the time. Which also, in case some people forget, you know, this isn't Todd Phillips' first go-around with making sequels that don't necessarily satisfy people. In the case of Hangover 2, though, that one still made a lot of money, made its budget back. It's just critically, some people were mixed on it, and then he was like, oh, okay, you don't want to do the exact same thing, want to give me shit? Okay, here's the Hangover 3, something weird and different. Not the same thing you've seen. And then people were like, well, I don't even know how to feel about this. And then that didn't make as much as 2, or even the first one. So this is not Todd Phillips' first go-around as far as making polarizing, maybe bad sequels. As far as like overall domestic runs, it has outgrossed his film School for Scoundrels by 23 million. Needs 3 million until it outgrosses War Dog. So, you know, it's still going to make, you know, a lot of money overall. It's just, will it make the amount that it needs to like break even, be considered a success even at this point if it's like small scale? No, you know, I think they've already dug their own grave at this point, unless the staying power is actually incredible. But we'll talk about it with the predictions. I just don't see that happening, man. I really don't. Worldwide numbers, it's 104 million over School for Scoundrels, 35 million over War Dogs and Old School. And 2 million over Road Trip. It needs 49 million now until it outgrosses Starsky and Hutch, which I didn't even know was a Todd Phillips movie. If I'm going to be completely honest, I know about Road Trip, I know about the Hangover movies. I did not know about Starsky and Hutch. That just, you know, threw me through a loop when I wrote that down, but apparently he did. So it's the same thing we always talk about when it comes to like some of these bigger budget, like blockbuster movies. It'll be more interesting to see how they hold over in the next coming weeks, you know, with other competition or no competition, but word of mouth, blah, blah, blah. In this case, it's, it's looking like it's pretty clear to me, at least, like this is not, I mean, shit, you know, so many of those other movies that we have talked about did not have cinema scores this fucking low. I think that, is this the lowest comic book movie cinema score ever? I don't know how far back their data goes, if they have one for like some of the like older ones. I don't know. It might be. Shit. Oh my god. Oh my god. So yeah, there you go. I mean, if what people speculate is true, which is basically Todd Phillips just wanted to give a fuck you to the audience and everything, I mean, I don't think he would necessarily care how well it does at this point, but still, You can't prove that, so who fucking knows, man? But I think he would like a good bonus from a good box office run also. Like, I don't think, anyone would want to make something that is so, like getting people so wrapped up in a frenzy like that. It's interesting. It's interesting, you know what I mean? And one thing is for certain, the conversation surrounding it is still just as fucking annoying as the first time around. Can we just be a little bit more normal about some of these movies, man? Jesus Christ. Anyways, let's move on to number 2, which is The Wild Robot, which I thought would get, like, even more creamed, but then seeing how Joker, it was kind of shaping up, I was like, well, let's see where it holds up on Sunday. And it dropped only about 40%. It made 18 million, so that adds to a domestic total of 63 million for DreamWorks. It's outgrossed El Dorado by 13 million, Wallace and Gromit by 7, Boss Baby 2 by 6 million, Croods 2 by 5 million, and Abominable by 3 million. It's now sitting behind Flushed Away by 1 million. So outgrossing some of the lower ones, and it had a decent hold, especially considering how polarizing the biggest release was. So maybe more people were like, I think I'll see one of the rated fresh movies on Rotten Tomatoes. Worldwide, it adds to a total of 100 million. So we are now about 56 million away from doubling its initial 78 million production budget. So as long as they can get to that and make some more, like just a little bit more than that, I think we're in a good spot for it. I think we'll be seeing that happening either next weekend or the weekend after. Hopefully, best case scenario, it's next weekend, but we will see. It's outgrossed El Dorado by 35 million and Sinbad by 20 million for DreamWorks. It's now sitting behind the original Spirit DreamWorks film by 6 million. So that's where that film is at. And yeah, you know what, even though, say whatever you want about Joker, I'm glad at the very least that some people are still giving The Wild Robot a chance and it's not just plummeting, just because I think that was my biggest fear, was like, we have this movie that is like genuinely fantastic and it opened solidly, but man, Joker's coming right around the corner and that's going to be the thing to suck up everything. But since it's not sucking up that much, and if my prediction is correct that it's not going to hold over well, I mean, got some other options coming up and also still in theaters. Number 3 is Beetle Juice, making 10 million, adding to a domestic total of 265 million. So for Tim Burton's filmography, it has outgrossed the original Batman by 14 million. It's now sitting behind Alice in Wonderland by 69 million. I don't think it has that momentum to keep it going. I know, it's about to be Halloween season, or it is Halloween season, it's October, but it is also about to hit digital, so it's like, that trade-off. So it's probably not gonna, have that same momentum to catch up to Alice in Wonderland at this point, in theaters. But still, the second highest grossing domestic run for Burton's career, that's still pretty amazing. Worldwide, even more amazing. It is sitting at $402 million, so it has quadrupled that initial production budget. And it's still sitting behind the OG Batman run by 9 million, but I mean, still, it's quadrupled its initial production budget. That's the important part here. There you go. Way to go. At least Warner Brothers is winning with this other film, even if it's not necessarily Le Joker. Number 4 is Transformers 1. Still clinging on to the top 5. It's, I don't know, man. I really don't know. It did get a little bit of like a worldwide bump. It released in some other territories, so a little bit of a bump, but we're still a little bit away from doubling its initial production budget. Domestically, it made 5 million, which adds to a domestic total of 47 million, which places it 80 million away from Bumblebee's run. Worldwide, it is sitting at 97 million, so 342 million from Rise of the Beast. Like I said, like, at least there's a little bump, but it's like, and maybe there's some other territories it still needs to be released in, but still, it hasn't cracked 100 mil yet. And what I was talking about last weekend was like The Wild Robot is, edging it out. This weekend, Wild Robot gets to 100 million worldwide, and Transformers 1 is just right behind it, but still, Wild Robot, technically, has not been out as long, even though it's only a week difference. So, yeah. Clearly more interest is in The Wild Robot. The praise surrounding that film is a little more powerful than Transformers 1, even though both are pretty great movies. I'd recommend you go see both. Hopefully you got a chance to. Would recommend Transformers 1. But, it's still clinging, and that's cool. Speaking of clinging, number 5, Speak No Evil. Not the Whitebird movie. It made 2.8 million, adding to a domestic total of 32 million. So it is 22 million away from James Watkins' film Woman in Black. Worldwide, it is sitting at $67 million. So that places it 61 million away from Woman in Black. But at this point, now that they've crossed the 60 million point, they have quadrupled their initial 15 million production budget. If they get to 75, that's 5 times that. So I think they do have a little bit of a small momentum to get there. So there you go. The Blumhouse model keeps winning. At least they didn't put all of their fucking money on on a movie, betting like, oh, this is a sure bet. You know, we don't even need test screenings. Who cares what anyone says about this? Oh, it's flopping. I don't know what I'm referencing there. It's definitely not Joker, because obviously they had test screenings, obviously. Number 6 was Whitebird, A Wonder Story, so just right outside. And it's not even that close to Speak No Evil, so there's no like, well, when official numbers come out, that's when it might edge it out. No, it's not. It made $1.53 million, though, on a budget of $20 million. You might think worldwide, maybe it'll save it. Nope, 4.5. It is $26 million below the opening for Wonder, and it needs $131 million until it outgrosses Wonder. Not going to happen. Worldwide, it needs $306 million. I guess this was kind of on the cut, like in 2017 is when that came out. And because it's kind of weird, like when I was writing this down, I was like, I'm kind of surprised Wonder made that. I'm sure I covered it on the show, but it's been so long I forgot. But I guess that would be kind of on the cusp when like movies like that, you know, used to make, you know, a decent amount of money, or, you know, caught on. And now we're kind of at a point where sometimes these like those like uplifting family films, whatever, just kind of get pushed out and people kind of overlook them, or they don't even make them anymore. So hey, you know, that was cool to reminisce about. 2017. This one is I mean, I think the biggest thing about this one is that it was hurt by maybe, you know, the marketing. You know, it's a sequel to Wonder, but it's not like with those same characters, so people are like, oh, okay, and it's mostly flashback stuff. Oh, okay. And then also it got pushed back, so maybe people forgot that it ever came out. or it didn't come out. Anyways, let's move on to number 7, which is Deadpool and Wolverine, which, you know, did hit digital recently, but, you know, still making its money here, making $1.52 million. So you could actually say that Deadpool and Wolverine could get above Whitebird, because those are so close too. It adds to a domestic total of $633 million. It's $45 million away from Infinity War at this point. Worldwide, it is sitting at $1.328 billion, which places it $6 million away from Black Panther. So still in the same spot it was. It's just funny that it could also potentially be outgrossing Whitebird. Just, you know, the thing I was talking about. That's all I have to add, because it's out on digital, but it's been out long enough where it's like, it's not like it's undercutting anything. Like, it's made its money at this point. You know, it's not flopping like Joker. Number 8 is The Substance, which was at number 10 last weekend, if I remember correctly. And I thought it's out at this point, but hey, some people went to see it, and it didn't make more than it did last weekend. It still had a drop, but people are still, like, it held on really well. It was only like about a $500,000 difference or something like that. It made $1.3 million this weekend, which now adds to a domestic total of 9.7. Worldwide, it is sitting at 16.5. So they're still not close to doubling that 17.5 initial production budget, but I mean, shit, they're about to cross the initial point, you know, which is like pretty fantastic. I know for Mubi, this is like one of their most successful theater releases, because they haven't, as far as I'm aware, they haven't really done that much, and they haven't really pushed a lot of their other movies the same way that they are now doing with this. This one is kind of really caught on. Shit, it's really cool. It's really amazing. I'm not confident it will be here next weekend just because of how many new releases we are technically getting, but I mean, it would be cool if it stuck around. Either way, you know, once again, it's just cool that people are hearing about how weird and gross and odd this movie is, and people are still fascinated enough, interested enough to go see it. Originality isn't dead, people. You just shouldn't expect to find it in your comic book IP. You want good weird, this is it. Go see The Substance, baby. Number 9 is Megalopolis, though. Making $1.05 million, adding to a domestic total of 6.4. For Coppola, it's outgrossed The Conversation by $2 million and Gardens of Stone by $1 million, and now needs $4 million until it outgrosses New York Stories, which is an anthology film where he directed a segment alongside Scorsese, you know, good director, and Woody Allen, a fucking creep. Worldwide, it only bumps it up to 7.4 million, so it's pretty much outgrossed the same things that it has domestically. You know, it's sitting 2 million over Gardens of Stone, 3 million away from New York Stories, so not much of a difference there. Yeah, this thing, you know, and I went to an IMAX showing like on Monday with a friend from work. This is my second time seeing it. And there were people that, it wasn't like a ghost town. There were people seeing it, not like a whole lot, but just, I think I was still surprised at how many, considering what the word of mouth on the movie was. But obviously that's still not enough to get it higher on the list, or, you know, get it to a number that's better than where it's at right now. And, you know, walking out of it, yeah, people didn't you know, hearing everyone talk about it, people didn't know what to think of it. And it's just, yeah, you know, this is not a commercial film. And it's, you know, odd that maybe people expected that to happen. Oh, well. Number 10, closing out the video, is My Old Ass, making $908,000, adding to a domestic total of $4.5 million. There's still no official budget, but like I was saying last weekend, just because of how minimal it is overall, I can't imagine they spent too much on it, so maybe they're good. Who knows? It's just funny that Aubrey Plaza has 2 movies right now, kind of back-to-back, and one of them, I guess technically you could say, even though it has lower numbers, is doing better just, you know, compared to a budget that I can't even confirm. And that's that. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, you might be surprised I'm going with this. I'm surprised also, but I had to check just to be sure. This is one of those weekends where I had to check. And man, just the way things are shaping up, My Hero Academia, You're Next is my prediction for number 1. I think this could be the weekend where, you know, anime fans will come in and get it high enough to outgross my number 2 pick, which is Joker Folie à Deux. I don't think it will drop too drastically out of the top 5. But, you know, people will probably still be interested to see it, you know, the last couple people who want to see it. But I do not think it'll be enough to, you know, keep its place in number 1. We'll see how this turns out. It's happened before where an anime film has come in at number 1. You know, it's just, you know, we'll see. We will see. Number 3, I think, will be Saturday Night. Number 4, Piece by Piece. And then number 5, Terrifier 3. These ones were really hard, just as far as, like, there's no real clear, like, winners here, especially with the wild card that is Joker at this point. But it's like, yeah, you know, I feel like Terrifier 3 is a little bit more of, like, horror niche still, even though it has a bit more interest in it from other people now, since it did so well with 2, and already people are talking about how, like, people are fainting in the first 10 minutes of 3, so there might be some interest there, but not, like, a huge mainstream, you know, kind of attraction. At least not that we know of. We'll see next weekend. Piece by Piece, you know, it's Pharrell, but it's also his story told through Legos. And it's kind of like, I mean, that's, I'm already put off by that. You know what I mean? Like, I am personally. So I can't imagine, you know, my feelings are not shared by others. So I don't think it'll be like too high. And then, you know, Saturday Night, I know people are interested in seeing this movie. They want to see this. It could be an awards thing also, just, you know, depending on how they campaign for that. But also, I'm not sure how many people are aware that it's going wide next weekend. How many people, you know, are aware it's maybe not a streaming thing. You know, how strong is the marketing? So these all could, you know, be interchanged, whatever. But I'm hoping that my predictions are correct. Leave your predictions down in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.